Hi, and welcome back. We're sitting here today with Holly Barker from the Grief Resource Network. We're talking about Grief Anonymous here at Undertaker 365. We've had a full, encompassing conversation regarding the unbelievable experiences that people have in their life, surrounded around grief and grief healing. And we talked a little bit about early on in the show about the different types of grief and the experiences that people have when it comes to grief. We talked about grief when you lose a person, an immediate family member, or a friend, the loss of a pet, the loss of a job. The one thing that struck me as an issue that I don't believe that the people in the public or communities do not understand is that grief comes in at every angle, and it happens to everyone. I work in the funeral industry on a daily basis. I see people go through grief every single day. I'm grieving for them, and it's a particular situation that I think the people need to understand is that this is a real problem that everyone deals with. Mm-hmm. And that is why it is so important to have these resources, to have these networks, these groups of people, these different medical counseling, the entire spectrum of grief. And that is why it's so important for the hard work and dedication that you and your team have done in this particular area. If you can just expound upon a little bit about grief is not about just the loss of a person.
Right. And, circling back with what you said about the funeral home and the fact that you grieve for the loss of the people that are coming through your doors every single day. Mm-hmm. I had a very wonderful, unique experience with, basically what we call them is first responders to last responder. Mm. It's all the same spectrum. You are the last responder going through this. The first responders are the EMS, the sheriffs, all of that. And there's this whole line of helpers, professional helpers that are out there. And to me, the funeral home industry and the work that you guys do is a part of the helping professions throughout this whole process. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more behind the scenes that you guys do. And you're seeing the end results of a lot of things that are going on in society right now. And you're in your local communities where you're friends and you go to church with these people and you know these people. So the people that are coming through your doors, you have a connection to them, and we're all connected to each other. So the experience that I had was I went through what was called the ASSIST program, which is a suicide prevention program that helping professionals can take. And I had an amazing experience to be in a room with over 20 people. They were I think there was a funeral home person, director there. There was fire, EMS, the police, and they were collectively talking about their experiences. Mm-hmm. And each one of them had a very powerful experience with loss that they wanted to talk about. And a lot of this was revolving around seeing the suicides and things of that nature. And it profoundly affected them. It was almost like a rite of passage or a doorway in their profession that put them in a different mindset. And I didn't hear the word grief being discussed. However, what was being discussed was grief. Mm-hmm. And so that was one of the things that I wanted to bring to the table for all of them, is that in the profession that you're in the profession of a paramedic, you're going to go through those times where you see those events, and right. You are human, and you have a heart, and you have a connection to these people, and you transform with that, and that is your initiation into grief. And
that you're hitting it on the head. I mean, when I sat down and discussed the idea of this program, I mentioned I don't want this to be about Jake Vandenberg or Vandenberg Funeral Home. I want this to be about educating the community that the people that work inside the funeral industry are humans, and that we have lives outside of this business. And a part of that is it's so important, as you mentioned, with our first responders. They handle traumatic experiences all the time, and I think it's often forgotten that because of those traumatic scenarios, they're handling grief in a particular way. And the whole idea here is that, we're not stereotyping grief as being you're selected, pointed out as being one person handling grief. We're all dealing with it in a certain set of arrangements. I mean, whether it be this way or this way or this way. And the idea, just generally speaking, I just want to make sure that the public understands is that just because you may attend Grief Anonymous doesn't mean that you're the only person dealing with it, and that it's happening to multiple levels of people. And I think it's extremely important that the public knows that, and that this is really important that what you're doing,
and really important in what you're doing as well.
Well, we're really important together, apparently.
That's exactly it.
I think that's important. We'll kind of wrap this segment up by saying that, again, you're not alone. This topic of grief is so incredibly important on so many different levels, and that it doesn't just require the loss of a loved one to engage you into the grief cycle. Holly, before we wrap up today's episode, I'd like to go over a couple of things that are really important to the Grief Network and you. The launching pad being one, and then obviously Route 66,
right,
and the meaning that it has not only for America, but for Holly Barker and the launching pad, Grief Resource Network, and Grief Anonymous.
Absolutely. So I really believe that the launching pad was there waiting for us and the work that we're doing. And the fact that it's on the Mother Road is absolutely phenomenal. And the reason being is because for our programs, we know that this is an international opportunity. And as a matter of fact, I was just talking today with a wonderful lady named Luisa that's in Venezuela. And as we all know, Venezuela is being, going through massive strife right now. And so she's very familiar with the anonymous programs, and we're going to be starting the first Grief Anonymous in Venezuela.
Holy cow.
So I'm really excited about that. And I just think this is a universal experience. And the beautiful thing is with Route 66, we get people from all over the world during our busy season, which is the travel time during summer. And it's not unusual for us to have 150 to 250 people from foreign countries coming through our launching pad every single day that are on a trek all the way down the road. And that comes from regional people from the United States, but the majority of the world knows about Route 66. It truly is a bucket list opportunity. And so the thing that is wonderful is that we're going to have a place in the pad that describes the work that we're doing in our mission, both all with the Jordan Barker Foundation, with Grief Anonymous, and with the Grief Resource Network. And through that is the opportunity for this information to spread all throughout the world. Wow. So I'm really excited about that. But there's some things about Route 66 that I think are really, really important that I think needs to be awakened in America. I'm from the East Coast, and I've lived in 3 different countries. I've traveled in Europe. I've traveled all over the United States, yet I did not know that Route 66 was a thing to do. And it starts in the downtown of Chicago, right in this area, and it goes all the way to the Santa Monica Pier. And the thing about it is this road started with the migration of the bison. And then through transportation means they used the pathways that the bison had created and laid the roads, and then they laid the railroads, and they put the telephone poles up. So it became the source of American migration from the west all the way to the coast. And it has served a multitude of purposes, but one of the big ones was during the Dust Bowl of the I think it was the 30s or the 40s, and people were escaping the Dust Bowl, and they were literally walking on this road to California to a better life. And there's lots of pictures about it. There's lots of, history involved in what the road was meant for. And then coming up into the 50s and 60s, it became a vacation destination. And so people, entrepreneurs, mom and pop shops, all kinds of the quirkiness that we are as Americans, with all of our neat stuff that we come up with. I mean, all all you have to do is look at Las Vegas and what it used to look like, or Miami, or, and so all these things started popping up along the road. And in 1965, this little roadside hot dog ice cream stand transformed itself into the launching pad. And it was done by a visionary, John Corlick, and he was at a restaurant association, I think in downtown Chicago, probably McCormick Place, I don't know, or something like that. Anyways, and they saw the giant there, and he's a 28-foot statue. He's a muffler man, so these guys were put out in front of muffler dealerships, and they got caught in 1960 with a surplus when a muffler dealership went out of business, and so they ran around on flatbed trucks being sold all over the United States, and that's why they're like they are. So we have a very unique one that's in the design and the shape of a spaceman, and I just think he's a peace agent from space. That's kind of what I see him as being, because he's bringing all these people together,
Sure.
And it's almost like we have a little United Nations down there. And so I feel like this place has been held for the purpose now that it has such a multi-layer purpose of what we're doing there. We are bringing people together. Everybody's the same. Everybody's there to have a good time and to take this journey. But I see Route 66 is becoming a destination, almost like a pilgrimage. I see it as being a journey for people who are going back in their lives to regroup and find a new normal. And I know that through Grief Anonymous, we're going to be developing programs and plans and vacation destinations for people who are grieving. Maybe, hopefully, there's going to be retreats and things of that nature popping up along the route. And I want to have a part of being involved with that.
How appropriate can the entire ethos of your brand and development be that you have a road that intersects the United States and people of all walks of life, literally, go past it. It's just it really couldn't have been a better story if you think about it. I talk about striking the right deal at the right time, right? It really. It's exactly what you needed. I
think it was a God thing, just to be totally honest with you. And going back to our discussion that we had in one of our previous talks, is that when the online program for Grief Anonymous just took off, and the local program I kept trying to look into kept falling apart, because I was trying to find the ideal location that would be a free place for people to do this program. If I couldn't find that, then it would be difficult for it to multiply and do the work that it was supposed to do. So it was just interesting timing. I'm a widow, so my husband passed away from cancer 6 years ago, and I met online through a grief support group my fiance, who is also a widower. And he lost his wife, and he has 2 young kids, and not so young anymore, but when we met. And then I moved up here, and so he was taking me on a date down Route 66 on a day that we just decided to take off, and we just came upon the launching pad. And it was totally dilapidated. The restaurant was it was a total gut job, but it was the giant that was standing out there. And we watched people just coming from Egypt, from Amsterdam, from all over the world. We're in the parking lot taking pictures of this place, and I turn around and I look at the restaurant, and it's for sale, and I'm like, Tully Garrett's his name. We're going to save this.
This is it.
And when he saw my look in my face, he's like, this is happening, isn't it? And he said, yeah, we're going to save it. And so that's what we did.
Wow. What a story.
Thank you.
So we have the importance of, obviously, the launching pad. We have the importance of Route 66. Tell me about the Jordan Barker Foundation and how that is the bedrock of the entire organization that you've created.
Right. Okay, so Jordan Barker is the name of my husband. And I put this foundation together in his name and in his honor, because I didn't want his life, he made wonderful strides in his community, with his friends, with the work that he did, and I just wanted to continue his legacy in some way. And so when I was putting together the concept of Grief Anonymous and starting to build out the websites, I also wanted this to be an organization that was self-driven and self-supported. Okay, I'm not that I know that there's sponsorships, there's grants, there's opportunities out there that in time we will be focused on, but I felt like this could be truly generated, the revenue and bringing up the foundation and building out the Grief Anonymous programs worldwide could be self-generating. And the way that we're doing this is through the Jordan Barker Foundation and our membership with our helping professionals. Because the way I looked at it, in being a small business minded, you can have great things, but cash flow is always an issue, and marketing budgets are enormous. Definitely. Right? And so I knew that if I found a place or a platform where our grieving people would be able to see into the helping professions that are helping people with grief, that would provide a direct line. And I'm thinking, okay, $200 annual fee for the helping professionals to come in and to support this work that we're doing. And in turn, it's not just a tax deductible donation that's going into building out the program, but it's a win-win. It's a win for the helping professionals too, because we're giving them a platform to show their books, to show their businesses, to show the programs that they're running, and all of those things, so that our grieving people can see what's going on. Our membership is anonymous, and that's why we are called Grief Anonymous. We do not sell we don't sell their names, we don't sell their identity in any way, shape, or form. That is sacred, that is in our space, and it's for the purposes in the future for some of the endeavors that we're doing with the foundation, which I'll circle back around to. But my point is that it's a give back to the helping professionals as well. $200 annual fee, knowing what I know about marketing and having a small business is chump change.
Yeah, it's peanuts.
It is absolute peanuts.
Very true.
And so through that, what we're planning is we take that $200. Of course, we're going to try and keep it below a 30% administration cost, which is we are hiring and employing people who have been in our program and know it back and forth. And it's more like we're making sure that we're bringing in the right stuff, we're bringing in the good, and because we are protective of our membership. And that's who we are serving. And so our point is that it is something where then we can take the remainder of the foundation money. We have three purposes. One of them is to build out our organization worldwide. We're going to start locally here in Illinois, and then we want to spread it throughout the United States. And it is going to take revenue to be able to manage that, to function, to network, travel, all of those things. But we know that it works, and it's a free program. So it's free for all people, and we're giving it free to helping professionals. So it's designed that way. When I write the big book, which is something that we're going to be doing this week, or not this week, but this year, we're going to put that online for free as well, because we want people who, is homeless, to be able to come into a library and sit down and have full access to our program, because we know that a lot of people who are homeless or in dire straits maybe got there because they were grieving.
Definitely.
So my point is that that's available, and it's only $200 for the professional, and from there we're going to build out the program, and then we're also going to be investing in research and development of studies, academic work. My background is in pharmaceutical sales, so I was working with studies my whole life and in the psychiatric community, and so I know that there needs to be a broad spectrum study done looking at grief, and we want to support that endeavor. And we're actually talking with several of the hospitals and around the area, and I think it's something that we can get going with it. And then the last part of the picture is helping people who are in crisis due to the loss of a loved one. Our foundation is a private one, so if you do a Google search, we're not like a public foundation. It is private because I wanted to have full control over the way that this is designed. And so we're going to be taking that money that's in the foundation and giving to charities with boots on the ground. It's not going to go to those big charities out there that you throw $100 at and it somehow evaporates and you don't know where it's headed. I'm not saying that happens in all big organizations, but my point is when we have Grief Anonymous programs spread throughout the country, we're going to know the specifics of the problems that are
Sure.
going on, and then that money through the foundation can go to either charities that are helping and networking with us or direct into Grief Anonymous and help people directly. That has to happen. They're in
Grassroots.
crisis, yes. And so that's the point and whole premise of the Jordan Barker Foundation and the membership process of charging $200 to helping professionals. I think it's a win-win-win for everybody.
I couldn't agree more. And I just want to say that I think that you're doing, I'm super honored that you've been
Thank
with
you.
us today and shared so much information for our viewers. But really, my hat's off to you.
Thank
and the
you.
hard work that you've done. I mean, we've only met each other a couple times, and I'll
Right.
tell you, I wholeheartedly believe in everything that you're doing, and I
Thank
believe
you.
that there is a demand and that you're meeting it,
Thanks.
and that I love the perseverance and the fact that you're just going to continue to move forward and keep working hard. So
I appreciate it.
I really appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks a lot.
And to our viewers at home, I hope you're intrigued by the information that we're providing to you through Undertaker 365. We are going to be bringing a bunch of more information to you, including more information coming from Holly and some of the cliffhangers that we left out there for you today, specifically Grief Anonymous. I think we could have an entire episode dedicated just to that one topic. So until next time, we'll see you then. Thank you.
Thank you.